Welcome, everyone. As I call to order the December 4th, 2023 regular Board of Aldermen meeting, would everybody please join with me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Alderman Plufka.
Here.
Alderwoman Tice.
Here.
Alderman Weggie.
Here.
Alderwoman Sims.
Here.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Here.
Alderman Gould.
Here.
Alderwoman Harder.
Here.
Alderman Erger.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. Next up is the approval or amendment of the agenda. Do we have any changes? Any objection to approving the same by acclamation? See none, it will be so approved. Thank you. Brings us down to item 4. We have 2 items under that. The first up is a 2023 Missouri American Planning Association Outstanding Planning Awards for the outstanding implementation of Brentwood Bound. Andy?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I have to present and deliver to the city of Brentwood this plaque commemorating the city's award of recognition through the Missouri chapter of the American Planning Association. Outstanding implementation award. Each year, the Missouri chapter of the APA asks the planning community for examples of best practices in planning and submitted the Brentwood Brown project for consideration this year, and you're selected for this award. So I have this, and John Brancaglione is here with me to hand this award to you all. This also comes with, in addition to the plaque,
Batteries. Cooperating.
Thank you, sir. Is this better? Can everybody hear me okay? Yep. Also comes with this nice award.
Looks pretty good.
Thank you. There also are certificates for the other partners in the project, subconsultants and engineers involved as well.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. The awards keep, yeah. We shouldn't be shy about that. The awards continue to roll in for the Brentwood Bound project. So again, thanks for all the help for PGAV and all the other consultants. The next up is a wonderful proclamation, and that is in recognition of Kensington Curd. First place, Missouri State High School Activities Association, Class 2 Cross Country Championship, Brentwood High School State Champions. Kensington, if you would just come on down to the... Whereas Kensington Curd has finished first place at the Missouri State High School Association's Activities Association Class 2 Cross Country Championships, and whereas a sophomore at Brentwood High School and a member of the girls cross country team, she is the first cross country state champion in school history and the first individual girls champion in any sport. Whereas she won 5 cross country meets during the 2023 season, including the MSHSAA Class 2 District 3 Championship. Whereas she recorded the fastest time in Class 2 at the 2023 St. Louis Fall Classic Cross Country Meet and finished 4th at the Class 2 State Meet as a freshman. Whereas she is a multi-sport athlete at Brentwood High School, participating in cross country, track and field, basketball, soccer, and volleyball, earning all-state track and field honors in the 1,600-meter run as a freshman. Whereas she is a member of the Brentwood High School Student Council, a member of the girls' robotic team, a volunteer with the girls on the run program at McGrath Elementary School, and a straight-A student with a 4.0 GPA. Wow. Got a superstar here. Whereas she plans to study veterinary medicine and compete in collegiate athletics after graduating from Brentwood High School. Now therefore be it resolved that I, David A. Dimmitt, Mayor of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, do hereby deem it an honor and pleasure to extend this proclamation to Kensington Curd with sincere congratulations on her accomplishments and best wishes for a bright future. Presented this 4th day of December, 2023. Congratulations.
That's very cool. Right, right.
No pressure as you defend that next year, of course. So congratulations again, Kensington. That's fantastic. That brings us down to public hearing. We have one item, and that is a public hearing to discuss the estimated allocation of $40,000 in the Community Development Block Grant funds available after January 1st, 2023? 2024. So I'm going to open up the public hearing for the estimated allocation of $40,000 in CDBG funds. Whitney?
Hi, Whitney Kelly on behalf of the City of Brentwood. This is our annual designation of how the city wishes to use its community development block grant funding in partnership with St. Louis County. In the past, and we are recommending it again in the future, that we use it as part of the home improvement program for eligible participants to receive a $7,500 forgivable loan on home improvements. The increase in previous years, it was $20,000, and that has been increased to $40,000. So,
Okay. Do we have any questions? Alderman Lockmuller.
Whitney, so are we looking at unused funds in 22, 23, and now we're going to get $40,000 in 24? Is that what you're saying?
yes. So HUD has not allocated the funds for 2023, so those haven't been designated to anyone yet.
Okay.
St. Louis County indicated that they have participants and have allotted the $20,000, but they have not received those funds either from HUD grant. They are working to fill all of the $20,000 allocated for 2021. There's citizens that are being currently assisted, but all of those funds haven't been spent yet. So,
All right, thanks.
Any other questions, comments? This does not require board action, so this was just, I guess, informational and an opportunity for the public to weigh in on this.
correct.
So anybody in the public care to address or to speak to this issue, now is the time to do so. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing section of this meeting. Thank you. Next up is citizen comments. Anybody in the public care to address the board, now is the time to do so. You will be given up to 3 minutes. And all we ask is that you come down to the podium, state your name and address, please.
Lois Truman, 8710 Rosalie Avenue. I just want to give a big thank you for the wonderful Christmas party thing, the Brentwood, everything that Brentwood does just seems to just excel. And I just thank everybody for all the work, seen and unseen. So that's
Thank you, Lois. Anyone else? Okay, if not, we will move on. That brings us down to the mayor and alderman reports. Just want to piggyback on to what Lois said. I also want to thank Eric Grunfelder and his entire staff for putting on what is easily the best holiday event that we have ever had, at least that I've been involved in, and that goes back to 2016. It was incredible, the number of people who were able to participate, who attended, whether that was because of the venue or whether that was because of the night. I don't know, but huge turnout. Ran out of food. The dessert food truck also ran out of food. So, and this was all Brentwood residents. So this is an opportunity for us to kind of give back and show our thanks for all the support that the residents give us throughout the year. And it was also an opportunity, as you noticed, it was a different venue. We were at the new Brentwood Park and the pavilion, and it was an opportunity for us to showcase that spot. And I think that's a great example of what we all had in mind of when we made that decision to spend the money to build that. It's going to allow us to put on a number of wonderful events for many, many years to come. It truly is a wonderful asset. And I want to thank not just Eric, but all the other employees that were there. Michelle, Tangela, our city administrator, everybody who got behind and helped to serve the public as well. Excuse me. It's a great asset that the city has. One of the many assets that we have. You know, we've got a lot of fire trucks, we've got ambulances, police cars, we've got cars in our fleet for our planning department and public works and recreation. So we have a lot of assets, but I think the most important asset that we have are our employees, because those are the ones that's how we're able to really deliver the services to the residents and businesses. And, you know, as I mentioned at the last meeting, I told you I'd be coming to you and asking for your approval to provide some extra funds for our employees. And I won't go through everything that I went through at the last meeting, but essentially I was trying to come up with a stopgap. You know, we've noticed that whether it's the employees at the 95th percentile or the 75th percentile, we're not maintaining that. We've fallen behind. And I would like to address that. And I know Alderman Plufka wants to address that. And so we talked about the last meeting about speeding up the process of having a compensation consultant look at this and review this. We've had inflation the last 3 years, and our wages our salaries are not keeping up with that. And it's becoming a real hardship for all of our employees. And we see that with all the turnover that we're having, especially in the what we call the non-uniformed part of the city, the employees. So my thought was, I told you I would like to see about, I'm going to be making a request at the time to move our non-uniformed up from the 75th to the 95th percentile. That request from me will come when we have the compensation consultant look at this, and we'll know what the cost is to make that change. But I was trying to get a stopgap to get some money into their pockets as soon as possible. And we talked about maybe guesstimating what the would be at the 95th percentile based on the last study we did. But the smarter folks at the staff level decided maybe the best thing to do is to do a one-time COLA 3%. And so that's what I'm bringing to you all tonight, is for that, to request to do that 3% COLA across the board for all of our employees. And so with that, I'm going to ask Eric to come up. He's got a very short presentation about what that would mean and what the cost is.
Good evening. So when we're asked to kind of put together some numbers, I want to thank Tangela, who in her first or second week of duties helped us put all these numbers together. And then obviously Michelle Depew in the finance department and Bola were kind of all instrumental kind of getting this together pretty quickly. But if we looked at like a one-time 3% COLA increase, what we found was that the total cost for all employees would be $264,000. I kind of broke it off by the non-uniform and the uniform, so 122 and 141 each. And then also looking at per fund, obviously most of the staffing comes out of the general fund, so Fund 10, so that'd be the bulk of it, the 220,000. And then all the Parks and Recreation employees come out of Fund 50, so 42,000 are there. And so what does that mean for this year? What I did was, this is the kind of that sheet that you saw in the budget and also in the budget presentation. I just added an additional COLA column, which is highlighted in gray. And you'll see the expenditures do increase in both funds, the ending fund balance changes in both funds. But more importantly, you'll see that we still have, at the end of 23, estimated with a COLA increase, $10.3 million in fund balance for the general fund, and $5 million, a little bit over $5 million in the stormwater and parks fund. So both funds have money to cover that this year, if that's what the board chooses to do.
So I would like to get a motion from somebody, so at least we can have a discussion on this, a motion to amend the 2023 adopted budget to allow the amendments necessary to make this cost of living adjustment.
So moved.
Second.
Do we have any discussion on that? Alderman Gould, is your mic on? Okay.
Yeah, I just have a question. So this is for 2023 budget. We're going to reallocate funds to adjust for that. What does that do for the proposed budget for 2024? Because it's not a bonus, right? It's an increase to their salary. Have we factored in enough budgeting for 2024 to cover the increased salary, plus presumably, once we do a study of compensation, we're going to need to go up even more?
Great questions, and we've had that discussion. I don't know if Michelle wants to try and field that question or not, but the way I looked at it is, it's similar to the stopgap. We're going to make this, if the board approves this, it's, when we look at the 95th percentile,
We're going to make adjustments.
we're
to
going to
the
make
budget.
adjustments anyway. It's just, we will not, if the board makes this approval, the adjustments will not need to be as great as if the board doesn't make this. Because I know that, especially with the non-uniformed, if the board approves the increase from the 75th to the 95th, this 3% is going to be just a portion of that adjustment from the 75th to the 95th. So again, what we have to spend in 2024 will be less than if the board doesn't make this one-time COLA. Is that making any sense?
Maybe,
Mike?
unless the analysis comes back and the market has increased and we're even more, and we're going to be, so just making sure that if we do this, this does have a ripple effect for the 2024 budget, in a sense that baseline salaries have gone up a little bit. We need to make sure that there's enough for increases for the 2024 budget. It's not that we can't adjust later, but it'll be a.
Well, I'm going to let Michelle handle that.
Hi, Michelle DePue, Director of Finance. I will tell you that this is part of the exercise that has been happening in the
Yes, I'm
background.
sure.
This, on top of it, because in January, we also give our evaluations,
Right.
hence raises. So the likelihood of the last payroll in December to have the COLA, and then the first payroll in January. So these discussions are happening. What do we do with the wage study, and then what do we do about 2024, and then those adjustments? So internally, this was decided for all full-time employees as it's been presented as a COLA, and then allow the salary study to do its job, and then see what that looks like, and come back and make a proposal based upon that. In the meantime, the employees will get their 2024 merit increase based upon their evaluations. So hopefully that basically answered your questions, but we're going to let the mechanisms of the 75th to the 95th percentile do its job, and then make that recommendation from there. So we're not moving the scales. We're going to give the COLA, and then we're going to do the study accordingly. Further questions?
Yeah. Any Alderman Weggie?
Just for clarification, so we're talking about not a one-time, but a COLA adjustment now. We're not talking the 95th percentile at this time. This is
You're
just
correct.
a COLA.
That is correct.
That is correct.
Is
We are
there any
addressing
reason
them
if we wind up not doing the 95th percentile and we remain at the 75th percentile, is there any reason to believe that we would be beyond the 75th percentile with this 3%? My guess is we would not be.
My professional opinion at this moment, no.
Yeah.
And then once again, those merit increases for 2024 have already been built in, and you have approved the budget as such that those allowable for that will be getting those. So the 95th percentile will change that if and when that data becomes available.
Okay, thanks.
Alderman Gould?
Sorry, one more question.
No, go ahead.
So when would this, if this is passed, is it retro to December 1st? Does it start, when would they get that?
It's due on, the last paycheck is December 22nd and must be due to payroll by the 15th, and it is based upon their annual base wage of 2023. If it is to be the COLA, it is 3% of the base wage of a full-time employee.
So at their last paycheck, they'll get a significant bump
A second check that says COLA
Or-
on it.
for that, a second check that says
Yes,
COLA. But then
yes.
that changes their base salary.
It will be considered regular earnings.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know if it changes their base salary or not.
Well,
I'm not sure about that, but,
Well, that's what I think we need to know whether.
well,
it
but
changes their
what
base
I'm
salary.
saying is, let's say hypothetically, you got an employee that's making $30,000, and we got a 3% COLA, that would be $900, right? So they get that $900 COLA check. And then when it comes time to look at, even if we stay at the 75th percentile, which again, I hope the
No,
board
I
doesn't do,
understand.
that there's going to be an adjustment of that position, that person who's making 30,000 up to whatever it needs to be. But if the starting point is 30,900, then again, that gap to get them up to what should be the adjusted salary, it's going to be less in 2024. We'll make less of an adjustment
No,
because we're starting at a higher number.
I
because of this
understand
COLA that
but
we're making today.
This isn't a bonus, so it would adjust their salary, right? I mean, adjust their base salary, wouldn't it? I mean,
Yes. it
But,
would.
but they're not going backwards, is what I'm saying. I mean, yeah, but it's, where they're going to be next year, it doesn't really matter, because I mean, that's already built into the steps.
We'll be adjusting their base wage. We will not be adjusting the scale for the compensation study.
Right.
We won't say
Oh.
that we built in a 3% and then moved everybody. We'll let the compensation study
okay.
do its job based upon the data, based upon 23 as a whole, and then make the COLA available by the 22nd, and then give the data as it is for the 2023 scales.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason my guess is the reason we're somewhat behind is market has moved fast and we have percentages, but those were based on a market at the time, and getting an analysis sooner, helps us to be able to adjust those wages to stay within the percentages. I think the market's going to dictate that. I'm sure when we come around to the compensation study, it'll dictate an even more bump for some personnel, I'm sure. But, okay, I just wanted to make sure it was clear on when it was happening and how.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Just wondering if by doing it with 2 checks, are we running the risk of that looking like a bonus?
No, because we're going to type COLA even in the memo section of it, and once again, we're not allowed to give bonuses as governmental employees, so we'll put COLA in there and we'll make the necessary notes and adjustments.
Interesting, a lot of municipalities do have COLAs on a regular basis. If you look at, I think Frontenac, they do a compensation study every 4 years instead of 2 years. But in those years in between, they go ahead and provide COLAs to their employees until they can do that adjustment. Now, I'm not suggesting that's what we're going to be doing, but I think just given the circumstances over the last few years and everything else that we've seen, I think this certainly is warranted.
Well, I just didn't know if maybe that could be just based into that one paycheck, just put it in there and not have a separate.
The short answer is yes. Part of the difficulty we're running into is that majority of our staff is also new. So as we're running payroll and doing the main payroll, we want to make sure that we double check this other exercise since it's been presented. Because come the first check of January, we have a very similar exercise. So we're trying to isolate the number of changes happening so we can monitor them and hopefully be really successful at payroll at the same time.
Anyone else? Okay, if not, could we get we had the motion in a second, so could we get a roll call, please?
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderwoman Harder?
Yes.
Alderman Erger? Motion carries by a vote of 8 to 0.
Great, thank you, everybody. One last thing, and that is just we've got couple events coming up this week, and I forgot to mention earlier, we have on this coming Saturday, it's the last day of the Toys for Tots drive. If you have any new unopened, unwrapped presents and you want to drop them off between now and Saturday, you can still do that at the fire department. Conversely, if you wanted to wait until Saturday afternoon, the fire department's putting on a Fill the Ambulance event, I think from about noon to 4, and that will actually be in the Target parking lot, because apparently aren't many people in the Target parking lot on a Saturday afternoon 2 or 3 weeks before Christmas. And then I also I have to mention that we are having the annual Santa Parade on Friday night and on Saturday night. So Friday night is for wards 1 and 4, and I believe it starts at 5 o'clock. And on Saturday night will be wards 2 and 3, and that one will also start at 5. The actual map, the route of the parade can be found on the city's webpage, I believe, and all social media. So that is it for the mayor's report. Alderman Plufka.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also wanted to thank Eric and everybody from Parks and Rec. I thought it was a wonderful, the holiday party was just a wonderful event. I wanted to let you know that my 7-year-old granddaughter, who is learning to read and recognize my name on the plaque, announced to her 2 sisters that her Bappa had actually made the park. So getting more credit as it goes by. So thank you very much. It was really a wonderful event. Really nice. Well, thank you very much to them.
Thank
too.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Alderwoman Tice.
Yeah, I'll echo that, and my husband and I had our photo with Santa, and I think that's the first time I've had my photo taken with Santa since I was a little kid myself. So it was just a great event.
Great. Alderman Weggie.
Yeah, I echo same. We're still picking up glitter in the house from the inflatable snow globe. It was found at school today, I believe. A couple events the mayor missed. We have an electronics recycling, I believe, on Saturday. And then next week, we have join us for a very special meeting about the Public Works Building on Tuesday at 6 p.m.
Great.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Sims.
The December Ways and Means meeting will take place this Thursday here at 5:30.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Somebody like me that's subject to a lot of Hallmark movies. That was, I got a cold sweat the entire evening, but it was a good small town atmosphere, and we really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Alderman Gould.
I echo that. That was, I think, one of the best that I've attended, and I agree with you, Mayor, that it really brought home what the potential of that pavilion is for our community. So thank you to Eric, staff, all the staff your staff that you mentioned. Cheryl did an amazing job. Very good job, and I can't wait to see what it looks like next year with the playground already opened.
Alderwoman Harder.
I also want to say thank you. The place just looked beautiful with all the lights lit up and the ice carving and the guy with the fire swinging around and Santa. I mean, it was really a wonderful, wonderful evening, and I appreciate everybody, all their hard work. I think it's going to be a place to be next year.
Yeah. Alderman Erger. No report. Okay, and I forgot one last thing. Tomorrow is the opening for the filing period of the, if you're wanting to run as an alderman over on this side, show up at City Hall starting tomorrow. And Alderwoman Harder is also running. So we will have 5 spots on the ballot for the April election. So thank you, and that brings us down to the city administrator report. Craig.
Good evening. Craig Schroeder with Navigate Building Solutions. I'll be providing the city administrator update for Brentwood Bound. So quick update, going to soft costs, $36,547.63 was spent on IT equipment, legal, and project management fees. And there were no other changes in categories of funding or additional funding sources.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Craig? Thanks, Craig.
Great, thank you.
Nothing else in our city administrator report? Okay, brings us down to the consent agenda. We have 5 items. Are there any questions or any requests to remove any of the items from the consent agenda? If not, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Plufka? Alderwoman Tice?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller? Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderwoman Harder?
Yes.
Alderman Erger?
Yes.
Motion carries by a vote of 8 to 0.
Great, thank you. Brings us down to item 10, old business, bill number 6478. Can we get a second read by title only, please?
Ordinance adopting the annual budget for the city of Brentwood, Missouri for calendar year 2020, providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. Can we get a motion to perfect Bill number 6478 into ordinance form?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Is there
Alderman
a-
Weggie.
Yeah, so is there a presentation about some proposed changes here?
Oh, that's right. We do have, thank you for bringing that up. Do we have a presentation? Do we have the answer on the
do.
electric vehicles?
Yes. Eric?
So this was included in the updated presentation, but staff was able to take a quick look at electric vehicles and charging stations. And so the first thing I did was look at charging options. And so I met our contractor who did the 2 level 2 chargers at the rec center, and he gave us a quote on both a level 2 and a DCFC charger. And the big thing, especially when we're talking about the police vehicles, is that a level 2, they have about the same range, about 150 miles per charge, but the difference is that it's a 4 to 8 hour charge for level 2 and a 15 to 30 minute charge for a DCFC. Now, obviously, talking to the manufacturer, he would suggest, especially with the way we use our police vehicles, that we would invest in a DCFC charger, and talking to the police department, that would be their recommendation as well. Go figure, that's more money. I hate to say that. The charging station basically from a level 2 to a DCFC is 18 to 85,000. So it's close to about $60,000 increase, and that's a big difference. We looked at 2 different vehicles, the Blazer, which I believe is the preference of the police department, and with the purchase price, the decals, all the uplift or the emergency uplifting and the charging costs, you're looking at either $90,000 for a level 2 or $158,000 for a DCFC. That gets you 1 vehicle and 1 charger. If we go a Mach-E, we looked at the Ford Mach-E because I know that's what some other municipalities are using. Very similar, $77,000 for level 2 and $144,000 for all-in. And so, taking a look at what we have $165,000 currently in the budget for 3 patrol vehicles. Obviously, 1 charging station does have 2 chargers. So if you wanted to do 2 vehicles and 1 charging station, for the Blazer, level 2 would be $163,000. So that'd be in line with what we have in our budget, but that's the longer charge time. The DCFC would be $230,000 in for two vehicles and a charging station. The Mach-E, same thing, $135,000 would be under budget. If we wanted to do that and then another vehicle, police vehicle, which is about $65,000, you'd be about $200,000. So it would be a little bit over there. But with the DCFC, it's $203,000. So again, these are estimates. We obviously won't know actual numbers until we go out and put out bids and things like that. But that's the numbers we were given by manufacturers, and I think Police and Public Works helped with the vehicle costs.
Are there any of that for the charging station? Do you know if there are any grants available?
Not that I know of. When I talk to them, there is still some charging station grants, but they're all for, they're not for businesses right now. So they're all for home and other uses now.
Okay.
Doesn't mean we can't find a different one, but the one that we're used to, the Ameren one, which we use for the Recplex, is not available right now, according to the person I talked to.
Okay. Alderman Weggie.
Yeah, Eric, can I just ask some clarification on, so slide 11 there? So, for example, so like the decals, that's the decals that go on the car. So that's the
Yes.
Brentwood Police. The 15,000 is the safety equipment in the car.
And the lights, yeah.
And the 155 that we had for 3 gas cars, that includes the 15,000 and the $900 decals? Because that's common across the board?
Yes.
Okay. I'll ask other questions, and then I have a motion.
Okay. Any other questions? Alderman Gould.
In a little bit of research that I did, there was some police departments that said that the upfitting was actually increased because they had to account for, I mean, these electric vehicles are mainly driven by, or, powered by a computer system that has, and then so there are computer systems that the police that need to put in. There was some additional costs to make sure that those two don't conflict with each other and all of that. So I know that 15,000 was put in for upfitting across the board, no matter if it's an ICE or EV. I just wonder, did you guys check to find out if that 15,000 covers an upfitting for an EV because of the nuances in different?
I'm sure Chief Spees is walking up to the podium right now because he's the one who did that. Oh, hey, Chief. So, Chief.
Sounds like Chief doesn't want. Okay. Okay, yeah, it was just an article that I read that it was from a police department memo that said that the upfitting can be more expensive because it's got different, you know, specs to deal with.
That, again, the PD, and I think it was Major Hawkins probably did the costing on the upcharging and all that stuff, so I couldn't tell you for sure.
Okay.
Alderman Tice.
So I have a couple questions. So the proposal, maybe this is a question for Alderman Weggie or Bola, but is the proposal then to have this in addition to the other two cars? Or are you, the way you're presenting it, it's sort of, you make it sound like you're thinking this would be in lieu of 3 cars, it would be 1 car and a charging station. So I'm sort of curious.
I think we're just presenting information.
Okay.
We're not making any assumption.
Okay.
Yeah, staff is not taking a position on this. We're not making a proposal. This was in response to a request by Alderman Weggie for this information.
Okay.
So we're going to leave it up to Alderman Weggie.
Great. And then my second question is, like, I know you're doing a study with Ameren about looking at the Brentwood fleet of vehicles, and they're going to give us a recommendation for like what makes sense to do first. So I guess this is my question for Chief. Like, what's the lead time of ordering cars? Like, if this gets in the budget, would you order the cars like January 2nd? Or are you going to space out when you order cars, and could we wait to hear about this?
Just had another patrol car go down yesterday. It's completely done. So we're down 3 cars right now. We have to put cars on the street. So the cars in the budget, we're planning on ordering in January. We can order an electric vehicle in April, and it gets delivered in late fall, allegedly. But those 8-9 months without a car is going to be a real challenge for us.
Thank you.
Alderman Lockmuller.
So if we did this, you're already deferring 1 car into 2025. You wanted really 4.
Yeah, by the handbook, we're supposed to get 4 a year, but it hasn't worked out that way.
So under this scenario, I think this actually would cover 2 cars plus the charging infrastructure. But doing that, then we're actually over by $65,000, the $165 we had budgeted for next year.
Right.
Now we're deferring a car into the next 2025. What else are we deferring in the 2024 budget into 2025?
I don't see any way to do it other than cut the number of cars we buy, unless I'm missing something. The cost of 1 electric vehicle almost covers the 3 cars.
And are any of these in use right now?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Are any of the Blazers in use right now, the electric?
They have not been released yet, no.
Okay, thank you.
They just start to build in April, and it'll be the first police vehicles of the Blazer model.
Any other questions? Alderman Weggie.
Yeah, so and Eric and everybody, thanks for putting this together. So, you know, again, going back to the rationale behind this. So, you know, there are so many unknowns, right? To the point of what is the upfitting charge? We don't know, right? I mean, I know our neighboring towns have them, but, you know, we don't know what that really is. There are just a lot of unknowns. I totally appreciate going and talking to Charge Point, who installed at Rec Center. I think, you know, this would be a different application because it's not customer facing, right? So it's just more hardwired in by an electrician, not a standalone pedestal that is necessary. It's, you know, very similar to what's in a garage, basically. So I think that price would probably come down when you actually went out for bids. So I make a motion, let's increase this capital fund line by $25,000. The reason being, I don't know this for sure, but I believe there's going to be some fleet electrification incentives next year. When we get the results of the Ameren study, this would at least get us moving on the infrastructure necessary. So it would go from 155 to 180, chainsaw math. That would allow us to move, if we get a positive result on the Ameren study, at least moving on the infrastructure, move forward with those 3 cars. I understand the Blazer, since it has just entered production, is going to be slow as they ramp up. But at least then we're ready if it does make sense. And again, the objective here is to save money long-term. It is more expensive up front, but over time, it's going to save us money. And a lot of this additional expense is a one-time cost. So
And
that's the
just,
motion.
just for clarification, you said 155?
It's 155 right now, so increase it by 25,000.
I thought it was 165. Is it 155?
165, 190, sorry.
Okay,
Chainsaw
so
math.
I just want to make sure, okay, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the motion is to increase that line item from 155 to 190.
165 to 190.
165 to
Sorry,
190.
I messed up my own
No,
brain
that's
and messed
fine.
everybody else up. too.
Okay, so the motion is, everybody understand what the motion is? Do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? Alderman Plufka.
What I heard from the presentation was, though, that to cover costs in 2024 to get 3 vehicles, one of them being electric and a charging apparatus that would allow us to charge, is going to be $230. Isn't that the number you said?
Or if we go with the Blazer, for 2 vehicles and 1 station would be 230,000,
Okay.
give or take.
Yeah, so I don't know that I'm in favor of this motion just because I don't think it's adequate. But I also think it points up the biggest problem I have with this motion, and that is that we are on the edge of this technology. What I think our police department needs is, in 2024, are 3 more vehicles. And I'm sorry to say that I think they have to be, or I think they should be, gas-powered vehicles. I think in 5 years, in 10 years, this whole thing is going to be changing. I don't know that we need to rush this through in 2024. I would like to give the Blazer a year to see how it performs. I'd like, there's a whole host of reasons why I don't know that I'm not in favor of I'm not in favor of this this motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Alderwoman Tice.
I think, I'm wondering if this motion could be changed to a different part of the budget, and not necessarily in the police department budget, because I think the police need 3 cars right away. But could we put an additional amount of money in, like a pocket of money in the capital budget, so that we would have money set aside this year for a charging apparatus, so that we could then move forward with an electric car within whatever department it seems relevant to get it. Now, the only cars we're buying next year are in the police department, but if they come back and say, oh, you need to do the all the planning cars, then maybe next year we could put the apparatus in. If it makes, if the following year the car's going to, we need to replace the car, we could have the apparatus at City Hall next year, get that piece done, and move forward. So I feel like we need to move toward electric. I feel for vehicles, I feel like it is going to save us money in the long run, but I don't know that pushing it through for these 3 vehicles is the right thing right now.
Alderman Wiggy.
Yeah, just to clarify, and as typical, I'm probably munging this. What I'm proposing is increasing the capital fund by 25,000, keeping the same amount for the cars. So go get the 3 gas-powered Blazers, right? And again, the intent here is, as we learn from the Ameren study, let's get the infrastructure in place. As we just heard from the chief, cars go out of service, right? So let's say, next summer, the next car goes out for some reason, then we're ready. If the Ameren study shows well, if the data supports, so that we're not always having all these unknowns in front of us. And that's really my objective with this. Let's start knocking off some of these unknowns. Let's start mitigating the risk, so it's not always, we don't know, and let's start moving towards this.
So we're just adding the money. We're not directing, it's just adding money to the budget. We're not directing the police department to buy any certain cars.
Correct.
Okay.
And again, the whole reason for this is to make sure we don't have a barrier where there's no budget if it's time to move. That is all the intent. So it's one small step.
Alderman Lockmuller.
This type of technology, that this price will probably come down over time? I mean, I'm all in favor later of these type of things, but I just think as we let another municipality pick up a Blazer or a Mustang and see how it works for them, and then maybe wait a year or two, and some of these faster chargers may come down in cost, than install something now that you're overpaying for because it's new technology.
Yeah, I agree. And our surrounding municipalities, they've had these for 2 years. Not the Blazers, because that's a car that doesn't exist yet. So, you know, it's kind of like if you're always waiting for the next thing, you never get there, right? The horizon is always over the horizon or whatever. So,
I've got a question. Where does the 25,000 come from? Does the police department have to defer something from their budget, or are you proposing that the 25 come from reserves?
yeah, pull it from reserves.
Okay.
I mean, we spend a lot of time, and you're talking about pulling money to set aside for unknowns that what might come up. We have a balanced budget because a lot of departments deferred capital and, known capital expenditures. I just, if we are going to pull from reserves and increase the budget, then I would want to go to those departments and make sure that, those things that people need, street sweepers and, the stuff from our Public Works Department, we spend a lot of time talking about the budget and what should and shouldn't be in and what could potentially be deferred, even at a risk of, for like street sealants, for example. If we don't seal the streets, it may be that they get to a certain point that the sealing them is no longer effective, and we have to now tear them up and put new streets down. So we're pushing off things because we think we can handle it in order to get to a balanced budget. If we're going to increase budget, I think we should look at the other departments that, may need it now. I think that the beauty of our republic is that we are able to watch other municipalities all over the world, or all over the country, and be able to say, hey, what did they do, and how much did they spend, and how did they implement it? How did it affect, especially if it's public safety, how did it affect the police department's ability to maintain a vehicle running through all the time? I think we don't need to do this in order to data collect, because we can data collect by learning from others. I also have an issue with putting money aside that potentially could put a charging station at a location that we just had a city center discussion about, that in 6 months, we might hear from the library and find out what they're going to do. And then the decision might be, hey, let's move the police department back to the city center. Why put a bunch of infrastructure in over there when it may end up here? And then you get into, well, maybe we put the infrastructure here, and then if we end up getting a car, then, so there's just too many unknowns for me for this. And I just think, we spend a lot of time getting to a balanced budget. We have a balanced budget. If we need to adjust, if even a $25,000, where's it going to come from in order to make sure that we get a balanced budget? And do we have to go back to Ways and Means and discuss it and pass it and then come back here for the last meeting? Those are my questions. Maybe, Bola, you might be able to answer some of those procedural things.
It would just come from the fund balance, and this board could make that decision. I don't think it needs to go back to Ways and Means unless the members of Ways and Means want to take this up and look at.
I don't want to speak for the chairwoman.
I mean, we enjoyed all those meetings so much.
Yes, not something I'm sure we want to do.
There is a slide up there. I asked Eric to pull it up that lists all the deferred items, and you all reference that slide. So,
Yep,
but I
back
think
up.
the simple way is
Yeah.
to look at fund balance.
But even if we
take that
did
money.
pass this budget as is, and then next year we decided, you know what, we need 25 grand for something, we can just make an adjustment in fund balance then, right?
Exactly.
I mean,
Fund
we do that
balance
all the
or
time.
savings, one of the two.
Right, we just did it for COLA, right? So it seems to me that even if we don't put it in the budget, that's not that we can't talk about it next year when the opportunity arises. So I'm in favor of passing the budget as we have it.
Any other discussion on the motion that is on the floor, and that is to allocate an additional $25,000 to that line item? If there's no further discussion, do I need a roll call vote on this, or since it's, no? Okay. All in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No. No.
In the opinion of the chair, the nays have it. And that brings us, and we already, any other questions or discussion? We have right now a motion to perfect Bill number 6478 into ordinance form. I believe there was a second on that as well. So if there isn't any other discussion, then we will take a roll call, please. And again, this is for passing of the budget for 2024.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderwoman Harder?
Yes.
Alderman Erger?
Yes.
By a vote of 8-0, Bill 6478 will become ordinance 5107.
And just like that, unlike Congress, you did something that they couldn't do, and that is you passed a budget. Well done, everybody. That brings us to new business, and that is Bill number 6480. And I think do we need a motion to table that, or can we just, my request is that we table this motion because of some conversations that I've had with some of you, and just bring this up maybe sometime in the first part of 2024. So if that's the case, can I make that motion? Okay, got a
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on that motion to table, Alderman, or City Attorney? Okay,
That's part of my motion.
all right.
And I will
Any
second that
discussion
kind
on
of
that case?
motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Brings us down to citizen comments. Anybody in the public care to address the board again? Now is the time to do so. Seeing none, we have, contrary to what you might believe, we have no need for closed meeting tonight. So, certainly. Okay. We've been summoned to the principal's office. Seeing no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Can we recycle these?
You don't want to like keep